Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Inside the FLX podcast. I'm Josh Durso and we're here in the FingerLakes1.com studio in downtown Seneca Falls. Today we have Menzo, President and CEO of Generations Bank, with us live in studio to talk about the Women's Right to Run event taking place in May. Menzo, thanks a lot for being here.
Hey Josh, good to be here.
So before we get into the information here about the Right to Run event itself, tell us a little bit about yourself for those of you who might not know.
Okay. Well, I live in Seneca Falls, been here about 18 years. I'm from upstate New York, and I started out my career as an auditor. But it's been a real ride here. We love the area. It's just, my wife fell in love when we first came out to visit and interview. And frankly, that's what sold it when she went out and visited the schools in the area. And she just said, okay, this is where we're going. And we had other options, but we came here. Never regretted it.
A lot of exciting stuff, a lot of exciting things going on here in Seneca Falls. Specifically, the Women's Right to Run is coming up in about a month and a half, May 13th or 18th?
May 13th. It's Mother's Day weekend.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk to us a little bit about what that event is and what the run is itself and how that sort of came to be.
Yeah. Well, the run is a figment of my imagination when I first started. We just started talking about it inside the bank and thinking Seneca Falls, home of women's rights. No businesses dedicated to women's rights and to commemorate. Very few commemoratives, very little being shown and talked about with respect to women's rights. It just kind of threw me off. So it came from that and a desire to really play off of the women's rights, bring a little more notoriety, and more importantly, to raise a little bit of money for not just the National Women's Hall of Fame, but other items. In particular, we're looking at some of the young ladies that are participating, Girls on the Run at the Elizabeth Cady Stanton School. These are the types of things that we want to see supported. So maybe down the road, after this second year, maybe we'll be helping to support those types of things. Fearless 261 is Catherine Switzer's nonprofit organization, and she's trying to help women around the world become empowered and understand that they have a voice, and maybe through running, which is it works. Maybe they'll get a better voice in their governments and in their areas. So there's a lot to it, but it's a lot of fun. It's just something weird.
Now, how many years has this been going on now?
This is number 2.
This is number 2.
Yeah, the first year was just last year.
And the response to it was really, it was well received in the community. Now, what was it like after you guys you finished year 1 and you're sort of going back looking at how it went? What was it like seeing that positive feedback from the community?
You know, it really is awesome. Yeah. We had no shortage of runners. We had over 1,000 registered. I think it was just about 1,000 ran. We didn't have any shortage in volunteers. Everybody was out there. It was really nice to see. It makes you just feel good about community. This is what we live up in upstate New York for. We really need to draw together as communities more often than not. And frankly, we took a page right out of the Wonderful Life run, and they've done such a nice job. And Jeff Rook and his crew have helped us out. A little organization. We do a little different. We've hired a Yellow Jacket out of Rochester, Fleet Feet, to manage the event, measure, time it. Jeff and his crew do it all by themselves. Crazy. So we pay a little bit out of pocket for it, but it's well worth it to get it up and running. And it really is a great community event. There were, I got to say, there were at least 5,000 people around the race and through the race and at the end of the line, and it was well received. It's great stuff.
Now, what does the sign-up look like at this point? I'm sure you guys have received a lot of feedback from people who want to participate this year. What's that look like, and is there a deadline for it?
There's definitely a deadline. We just had the first price increase, March 31st. Now the price has gone up a little bit, and if I were good at this, I would have the number for you. But there's over 500 registered right now to run. So we're right on track. Everything seems to be going along. We're hoping for 1,500, and we're not out of reach of that.
Right.
The deadline is the day of the race. So if somebody shows up early enough, I'll get them a jersey. I'll get them at the race start. As long as they're here, the race starts at 8:30.
Yeah.
There's one that starts out by Lott's Farm, and the parking is out there. Thank you so much from the Lott family. We really appreciate their support. And the other start, the 5K, is at NYCC, and of course we thank them. And it's that one in particular is nice because kids can participate. And
right.
It's easier.
Now, speak to that a little bit, because I think it's interesting seeing a race like this, organizers actually reaching out, trying to get really young kids involved in something like this. Well, obviously, you said that's something you guys wanted to do, but the reaction to that's got to feel pretty good too.
Yeah, to have a bunch of kids that are interested in running.
Yeah,
I hate running. I really am bad at it too.
Right.
But to see them out and instead of in their homes playing video games, and it seems like we're giving the kids a bad rap. We got a lot of kids here that like to go outdoors, have a little fun, like to volunteer, like to be a part of the run. These are normal kids. Nothing's really changed. Yeah, I hear some of us. We used to play baseball in the streets and all this. Well, you played baseball in the streets because you didn't have a baseball park. We got a baseball park.
Yeah.
We got a girls' softball park. Thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
So kids like to be out, and they'll get out. All we got to do is encourage them, and they'll participate. So it's just showing, hey, listen, these kids are great kids. They're going to have a lot of fun. Last year the Girls on the Run and many others were the water station extraordinary volunteers. This year they're just going to run a little bit more. So
yeah,
that's okay with me.
Now, what is that sort of long-term vision for something like this? Because it's one of those events like the It's a Wonderful Run, where every year it grows and grows and grows, and it's like you must have to, as an organizer, have some sort of long-term vision of what you want to see it grow into. Otherwise, God only knows what it would grow into.
Right. Well, I want it to grow into pandemonium. That's the best way to describe it. In my mind, there are 5 races that we need to establish. There needs to be. We've got the 19K. We've got the 5K, both in Seneca Falls, running in Seneca Falls. That's nice. But just as in 1848, there were participants from all over the place. So we need to focus on it a little bit. Geneva, believe it or not, from Geneva to the Center for Great Women, the former Seneca Falls knitting mill, is 19K. So we need a race from Geneva. And frankly, we need to finish the trail. And by the way, the Cayuga Seneca Trail folks deserve a hand for their sticking with it for all these years. To see the Louvutico Trail do so well, I know I said that wrong, but to see that trail and to see the folks that are going to that. But there's more to be. We need to get that trail right through to the other lakes. So there's one race we could go right on the trail. So much
Take
fun.
Traffic right out of the equation.
And cross country, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Third race, that would be the third. Fourth race, Waterloo to Seneca Falls. The McClintock House, very important to the suffragist movement, is right there in Waterloo. And I have mapped out a 5K race from Waterloo to Seneca Falls, ending at the Center for Great Women. And there needs to be a half marathon from Auburn, and it starts at the mall to our location here in Seneca Falls at the Center for Great Women. And that's a half marathon. Then there needs to be a 6th race, which is a 2-day race from Rochester. So those are just some of them. I have more. I have a triathlon starting over in Cayuga County, swim in the lake a little bit, and then run over here and the marathon wrap up and bicycle around all over the place. So I'm still mapping that one. We also can do something from Ithaca up to Seneca Falls. Now, it's a little longer. It's 45 miles. So a relay race. I'll steal from 7-Up. So there's a lot of things that we can do. But we'll start small. It's okay.
Now, to that end, you just mentioned the Seneca 7. There seems to be, It's a Wonderful Run, it seems to be a serious growth in these race, run, triathlon, these sort of athletics for adults.
Sure.
What is it like seeing that and the interest that goes along with it across the Finger Lakes?
I never would have expected that.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of running.
Yeah.
I would walk it
Right.
if I weren't too darn busy.
Yeah.
But it's surprising because there's so many. The half marathon is the #1 growing sport for women. And I guess talking to runners, there's a certain euphoria that comes once you get trained and you start running. I've never felt the euphoria. Now, some would say, well, you've never run. Yes, I have. In the Marine Corps, we ran all the time, and I hated every second of it.
Yeah.
So maybe it was because of the boots. I don't know. So I'm really surprised by it. You know what's interesting? Our governor, as much as sometimes I wonder what he's thinking, but in one case, he's got this idea for a trail throughout the state, bicycle trail. What a great idea. What a magnificent idea. if we could just get our minds wrapped around the idea that people want to be outdoors. And, we've gone, I've lived in California, loved the area, never want to live there.
Right.
But great scenery. I've been all over the East Coast. I've been to the Midwest. But I always come back here and I think, I walked to State Park this past weekend. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So we've got it all right here in the Finger Lakes. And drawing people here is a natural, and we're just catching on. You know what? God only made so much land. There's only so much water, and we've got all the water, and we've got the land around it. So we've got a great resource here.
Now, is that the positive then, that finally the resources are sort of being taken advantage of to market outside of the Finger Lakes and to bring people in and to do all the things that make people ultimately spend money here?
Hey, that's the ultimate, and to live here.
Yeah.
But I'll give a shout out to our folks that want to conserve. We do have to protect what we do have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of invasive species in our lakes. The rumor is that the trout are disappearing from Seneca Lake. Well, that shouldn't be. So we do need to protect it, but at the same time, we want to utilize it. There's a national park down, a national forest just down beyond Interlaken, down that way.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So you mentioned the Center for Great Women. Talk to us a little bit about that and how that's coming along and what your feelings are towards seeing that finally come to fruition.
This has been a process. We have seen, I think it's been 3 years they've been working on this, maybe longer.
Yeah.
And we start to, a lot of people are naysayers and looking at it and saying, well, what's going on? It's mismanaged, etc. Well, behind the scenes, I'll give a shout out to Jeannie Jo Vinny. Behind the scenes, we just got approval from National Park Service, which was the big holdup.
Right.
With the National Park Service approval, we have tax credits that are able to be sold to two for-profit businesses that are about $2.2 million in cash to the National Women's Hall of Fame. That's a big deal. That's the almost all the money they need to complete the project. So what we've got, we had to do some demolition. The wall that was there was unsafe.
Right.
So we knocked it down with the help of Sesslers, and they gave us a nice discounted price, and we appreciate that. Knocked it down, and now we've got to get permission to remove that and, frankly, continue the demolition, which is in the plan, save the chimney, and then continue with our building. So we're in that process trying to get the approvals, and we will see activity this summer. We will see activity, and we're I don't know if you've seen it, but the windows are in. It's getting there.
Yeah.
It's exciting because there are so few of those mills left. Boston Spa has a project that they did over, and it's more of a residential commercial use.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it just kind of sets the town apart. This will really set the town apart. This will really raise awareness in Seneca Falls. It's just a gorgeous property.
Now, is that part of what has to happen in a place like Seneca Falls? Because I think when people think about or talk about economic development, for one, they want to see these new buildings popping up when there's a lot of real estate and a lot of buildings that could already be used, right? Is that part of the equation? Does that have to be part of the equation for Seneca Falls when it comes to economic development?
What Seneca Falls needs to do is utilize what it has.
Yep.
A lot of assets here. And we've got to find ways to develop them. So, indeed, we do have to use these buildings that are been abandoned. Boy, wouldn't it be awful if we had to go down to Sylvania and use that giant plant for some purpose? And there's got to be a purpose for it. There's got to be some reason to have that building still here, and there is. But we've got to have some dreamers, and we've got to have them come to the Seneca Falls Development Corporation. By the way, we're having a meeting in April. And we're looking for ideas to update the economic development plan. There's a lot of people that have said, we want to participate, we want to do it. Well, here's your opportunity. Look for a press release soon. The first day that we scheduled, as I've been told, is the same day as the United Way Taste of Spring. Oops. So we're going to change the date.
Right.
We'll get together a crowd, I hope, and we'll start the process of getting the public involved to identify these properties. Auburn just got a grant, a brownfield grant, to look at selected properties that can be redeveloped, and they're ahead of us now. So we need to take a cut from their page and get this brownfield stuff, these grants, and start to. Unfortunately, you got to do a study, but you got to start it, which is get it documented, which we want to do. Which ones are the priorities? Develop some ideas for usage, and get in there. So the technology building. All I've heard is, it's an economic, it's a disaster, and okay, get the brownfield grants. Let's get it cleaned up. Let's get the floors sealed or whatever has to be done. Get people in there. There was a company interested in that, and the naysayers kind of talked them out of it. Right. And as a result, that same company went somewhere else, and they are doing fantastic, and I won't say who it is because it would be embarrassing. And now we're still with a vacant building.
Now, to that end, you mentioned grants. I think people, if you could explain how important grants are for a community when it comes to economic development, because I think that's something that gets lost on a lot of people, frankly.
Well, let's back up a little bit and talk about grants. Grants are nothing more than your tax money and my tax money allocated to other people.
Right.
And if we don't get in the program to get those grants, those tax dollars will be spent somewhere. All right. So Senator Nozzolio has done a great job in the past, and he's gotten us a lot of grants. And frankly, that's what you need. You need a pusher to get those grants. So the grants, let's use the Women's Hall of Fame. 65% of the money already spent on the Center for Great Women, the former Seneca Falls Knitting Mill, grants.
Yeah.
Now that's a huge number.
Yeah.
Going forward, $2.5 million New York State Restore money, or Restore New York money. $450,000 of Canal Corp money. I think that was SHPO money, and another $150,000 in Canal Corp money. And on a $5.5 million budget, that's what's left. Added up, it's over 50%.
Yeah.
So it's important. Now the county or the town has the same opportunity. The Wonderful Life Bridge, flagged yellow. Think stop sign.
Yep.
The next is red. When it's red, it can't be used. Yellow, it can be repaired, and we can write for grants. And that's where that money comes from. These bridges that are being repaired are done through grants. And it's nothing more than an allocation of tax money over to communities. And the loudest community, the most supportive communities, in the end, gets it. So when Geneva won 18 or whatever that number was, it was a ridiculous amount of money.
Their $10 million
downtown improvement.
Revitalization.
Which, by the way, I'm glad they got it. They need it.
Yeah.
We all need it.
Yeah.
Well, they won. Why did they win? Because they had a whole town. They got organized. They had a plan, and they wrote the plan, then they pitched the plan, and they won.
A really thorough plan.
A very thorough plan. Very nice.
And is that sort of is the economic development plan that you're talking about the beginning for Seneca Falls to really kind of start pushing change hard?
Right. And here's the thing. We have a plan. It's dated 2007. Looking at it, very little was accomplished.
Yep.
And that's because very few people are organized and looking at it. And certainly one person can't do it. So we need to update that plan. Now, if we're going to say that we're the home of women's rights and we're going to ballyhoo that, then let's do that. But if we have another idea, then let's put the other idea on the table and let's ballyhoo that. But whatever it is, we've all got to get behind it. And once the plan is approved, implement the plan, give it 5 years. Set objectives, measurements, and do it. And hold our town council, our Seneca Falls Development Corporation, our IDA, and whoever else needs to be in the mix, hold them accountable. And it's very doable. We could do this. We have a great county.
A lot of it is those entities and those people just working together, right? A lot of just working together so that all the bases can be covered.
Right. We've got some really interesting people on the just using the Seneca Falls Development Corporation. I'm a member of that as a board member. Joelle Murney Karsten, she's the chair. Fantastic. Ken McConnell at the Barristers, he's on it. Good guy. Jay Eastman, entrepreneur extraordinaire.
Yep.
And Pat Nugent is from ITT Ghouls, an accountant. Very good. Then we have 2 council members, Dave DeLalis and Greg Lazaro. So we've got everything we need, and we've got the infrastructure. Now we need to get out there and get some public input, then we need some doers.
Mm-hmm.
We need less complainers
and
more doers.
I just want to clarify that everyone on that board, everyone on that committee, has full-time jobs. They're literally taking extra time out of their schedule to make this happen. Especially Joelle.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think sometimes people get a little bit confused about, well, I don't have time to help. You do. Everyone does. Everyone can.
Well, there's got to be. Here's the thing about helping, and this is one of the things we got to do.
Mm-hmm.
If we develop a plan and we're implementing the plan, we've got to allow that to happen, and we've got to allow people to make a decision and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's easier to ask for forgiveness than to, not act. It's just go. Yeah, here it is. Go do this. Let's do it. Let's hold them accountable, and let's press it on. Everybody can do something easy. I've had kids participate in. We're trying to develop a walk of fame in Seneca Falls.
Right.
Just a little loop around around Fall Street and around the canal.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big deal. But I've had kids. They're designing right now brochures.
Mm-hmm.
They're designing commemoratives that we need in our town to show that we're proud of what's been accomplished and started here in Seneca Falls. Do you realize the vote? The whole conversation about the women's vote started here.
Yeah.
And look what we've got.
Now, a couple other events that have sort of re-sprouted, Canal Fest, Arbor Days in the summer, and then Oktoberfest, hopefully coming in October. Taking the canal into the equation, using the canal as kind of the epicenter for Seneca Falls, is that part of the equation, I guess, for getting people here?
Well, one thing about the canal, we've got... it's an incredible resource. We have a double lift lock over here in Seneca Falls, which is I think it's the only one in the country. I think it's a big lift. If it isn't, it's the number one height. It raises the boats more than any other. Yes, we've got a man-made lake here, Van Cleef Lake, and nobody's ever on it. And I don't mean speedboats. I mean just kind of luxury cruise, kind of hang out there and. Right. There's no fish in there. If there are, they're nasty little, what do they call them?
Carp.
Sucker carp, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of a leisurely place. But if I wanted to pull in and eat, we got that nice dock that they put in a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Pull up, eat. You got water. You got bathroom facilities.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to market that.
Yeah.
And we've got to clean up that backside, which we started. It's looking really good. We appreciate all the efforts there. But yeah, absolutely, the canal is a big part of it, as is Montezuma.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing like it. The state park right down the road, the two lakes on either side of us.
Now,
so much.
On that front, you just mentioned Van Cleef Lake, and I'm glad you did, because the property, the former hospital,
yes.
I believe, has finally been sold. Now,
yes.
What is the ultimate upside for that property? You talk about Van Cleef Lake being a place where people could eventually, be having their boats out there and that kind of thing. A development there seems like it would be perfect to draw those people in.
Sure. Well, Longley Jones acquired it, the property, and they're working through the process now of finalizing their design. They've got a really good design.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of straight lines, a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright look,
right.
At least in my opinion. So they're going through that process. They're going to draw in a lot of people there. There's a lot of interest. And we can see that. What's Strawway and his crew?
Yes.
Everything they build is sold out.
Mm-hmm.
Why? It's very expensive. Why do they? Why? How come? Because people want to live here and they're willing to sell their homes and not mow lawns any longer.
Right.
And they're using that. Or they want to locate here and they're commuting to Rochester, Syracuse, or whatever's in Seneca Falls, Auburn, Geneva. So they're willing to live in our town because it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
We don't understand it. Upstate New York has no clue what a commute is.
Yeah.
I first moved here, and we used to go to, we still do, Auburn and Geneva to shop for groceries at Wegmans because we like Wegmans. Now, Tops is nice, Sodders is nice. We've learned to enjoy those too. But when we said that, people would say, you drive all the way to Geneva? 15 minutes.
Yeah.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, we drive all the way to Geneva. So if you go downstate, it's a 2-hour commute to work.
Yeah.
And they're doing it every day. How miserable is that? Come up here, and they're living in Shangri-La.
Mm-hmm.
And with families starting to move in this area and finding out they can work from here, there's one lady, who was I talking to? She works at Frontenac Harbor.
Yep.
She commutes from Pennsylvania, stays up here for the week, and then goes back to Pennsylvania because she loves it so much.
Yeah.
Now, I don't understand that, but that's okay, you know.
Right.
So we've got a lot of people that would enjoy this area.
Now, before we get you out of here, closing in on the 30-minute mark, where is so for those who want to get involved in the race, maybe who want to run in the race, where can they get information? Where can they sign up for that?
All right. Well, I want to make sure I get the web address right because I'm terrible with memory here. We've got a website, and I'm going to pull it up right now because I want to make sure I say.
And Jim is also throwing it up right on the screen.
There you go, 19K, Right to Run, right?
Yep. Yes.
Right to Run.
Right to Run 19K. Yep.
There it is. .org. And we've got 518 registered so far, so this is really good. And there it is. So, Katie's going to kill me if I don't get that right.
Well, we really appreciate you coming in, and I'm sure we'll be having you in again to talk a little bit more about that at some point here, either right before it happens or after the race.
Hey, Josh, fantastic. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for us today. Don't forget to like us on Facebook and hit that subscribe button if you're checking us out on YouTube. Pod is also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and the FingerLakes1.com app. For Menzo Case, I'm Josh Durso, inviting you to join us next time on Inside the FLX.